Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode of Led by Life. We're your hosts. I'm Rafaela, and this is Hannah. And we are on Gene Key 37. Yes, 37. Um, we were catching up just now, seeing like where each other is at. And I wanted to like maybe share how you feel different now, given that like last week, I shared just a tad bit of like you were going through some things. And so, we improvised and decided I'd do that last episode solo, which was like a stretch for me, like a stretch of my comfort zone and just its own experience. But I wanted to say and share because I can see the difference in like the lightness that you were talking about just now that you feel. So, yeah.
Mm, Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing that episode solo. I think that I agree it was a good stretch for you to do something different. And I also really appreciated the ability to have a break because you and I caught up a couple of times in between recording. And there was one time where I just kind of fell apart and
Mm.
I was really struggling with self-love, and that's like a huge theme for me. So for anyone, new here, my incarnation cross is the vessel of love. So one of my biggest challenges has been to love myself and to accept myself. And so that's like one of the kind of recurring themes, I suppose, that I experience with the shadow frequencies rearing their heads. And so, yeah, I was really in it when we caught up last, and you just held so much space for me. And then you went on to do the solo episode. So I really appreciated that. And I do feel lighter now. And
Mm.
it's funny, I'm just putting this all together because the 37th gene key is about family and
Mm.
about the masculine and the feminine. And for like, I'm not sure, I've probably shared this with you, Rafa, but I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast, but I'm actually preparing to become a mother at the moment. And I know that that's been a huge kind of initiation for me internally as I'm like preparing myself to embody this archetype of the mother and really be a conscious mother and be, you know, this like really intentional, I suppose, nurturing embodiment of what love is, not only for my kids, but for myself. And so it has kind of been this process of like learning to mother myself.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've been doing that for the last few years through my deconditioning process with working with human design and the gene keys. It's been so much around learning to love myself and nurture myself and let go, release so many of those old beliefs and ways of being that don't align with the kind of mother that I want to be and the kind of person I want to be as well. So yeah, I'm just like, my heart is swelling right now.
Mhm.
And I was just rereading the chapter, and there was this kind of theme around self-love and giving and receiving. And it talked about, um, let me just read it because I've highlighted it here. First of all, you must learn to give to yourself, as you will discover it is through the love of your own self that you will find your love of others. In order to support another, you must first ask your heart how you can best support yourself. And out of that will come the answer of how to give so that both giver and receiver are fulfilled. To give to yourself in this way means to trust completely in the wisdom of your heart.
Mm.
And I'm sure we'll get to talk more and more about it as we get to like the 46th, which is my personality sun gate. But yeah, there's just been this huge theme of learning to love and mother myself. And so I think it's really relevant to this gene key in particular.
Mhm.
And thank you for reflecting that back to me, because I do feel lighter, and I do feel like I've kind of stepped through this very dark portal of healing, so that I can kind of open myself up to that next chapter of motherhood.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
And Mama. Um, Mama Hannah, what?
How about you? How are you
What?
feeling? How are you doing?
Whew, man. I don't know. I just find right now, like, it's it's interesting when, like you were saying, like, oh, there's a heat wave, we're getting a heat wave or whatever. And I'm sure, like, because you have family in California, like you get you your sister probably like gives you some updates on like how the weather is or like whatever is happening. And it's funny because I actually I don't watch the news, and I'm not on social media like at all. And so I wouldn't know if there was a heat wave. Like it's just hot. Yeah. But I bring that up because I don't really know how to, and not that this is necessary, but I don't really know like what's happening in the greater world right now on like I would say like energetically. Like I know like I pay attention to certain people and what they say, but the more and more I'm like honing in on my life in a way that is sort of new for me, which really relates, and I'm going to circle it all together to this energy and what you just shared about that quote was like perfect, because the more and more I hone in on really like taking care of myself, the more I have like no idea what's happening in the world. Like
Mm.
less than like at all. I have no idea. But to answer your question, because that doesn't really answer your question, I am well. I'm very well. Um, I've just noticed that, what you said in this quote about how like only when you can first take care of yourself can you then take care of others, or can you give? And I feel like that's kind of like a really similar quote to the saying that most people like think like you can't love anyone until you love yourself or whatever. I don't entirely like believe in that. Um, I mean, sure, you can't probably like receive the love you want unless you're giving the love you want in that kind of way, and really to yourself. Um, but I've noticed that lately for me, there's been a whole lot around like taking care of myself first and birthing in sort of this new identity that is not tied to patterns of codependency and to rescuing and to making sure everyone else is okay and that they're, and it's such a practice. Like it takes time and effort and patience and presence to like be able to like really witness and observe all that. But I do feel, and I feel like a connection to this one because I have the programming partner of the 37th, which is the 40, which comes out
Yeah.
of the heart, which is it's
And
called the
also,
weight of aloneness.
it's
Huh.
also makes up the channel. It
So
also makes up the channel.
so it
Yeah.
makes up the channel and it's the programming partner. So I have, the hanging gate here, and
Mm.
it's tribal energy. I have a lot of tribal energy in my chart. I'm also a 2-4. And so like that second number being the external world, and that is like a big part of me. Like my relationships and connections with the people in my life are really big. So um I in reading this, and that quote probably I could talk about that one the whole way through, because if we think about like families and the dynamics that we have and how we've grown up and like the ways in which we've quote unquote like have supported one another or have taken care of other people, like it's been from a very shadowy place. Like I'm okay if you're okay. I'm going to give you this in order so that like I get something in return. And like a lot of these just, yeah, like shadowy, more energies and frequencies. And so something that I actually have been working with for the majority of this year, I would say, is this idea that my tribe and my people cannot be okay with me not taking care of me first. And it's been the hardest lesson I've learned
Mm.
in a long time. And whew, yeah, I just, you know, because my family and I were very close, and I have a very close relationship with my mom and, you know, some other people in my family. And I feel, while although we're really close, I take on a lot of that energy. And this is also we're still in the emotional solar plexus, right? So the last three gates, the 35, the 36, and the 37, have all been coming out of the emotional solar plexus, which I have found so fascinating for the reason why we each have been having the experiences that we're having. Like, I'm really witnessing a lot of like my relational dynamics. And
Mm.
I mean, I can't speak for you, but I, like, as you were saying, like the last 6 weeks have been pretty emotional, like upheaval, and um, been going through a lot of healing. So I just wonder, as always, if in the background of our life right now is this journey of being on the 64 ways and the gene keys, and because it's just always so fitting.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
always.
always, always so
Even
fitting.
the 30, so one thing I'll add is you said the 35, the 36, and the 37. So the 35 is in the throat, but it connects to the 36 in the emotional solar plexus.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, so we
Right.
have been talking a lot about this theme of the solar plexus, the emotional energy, which neither of us have. We both have open, well, I have a completely open, you have an undefined
Yeah.
solar plexus.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, really interesting. And I think also what you said that really resonated with this idea of giving and receiving. And I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but I wanted to share as well how like held I felt in our last conversation together. And I really felt like you were just giving, like holding that space for me, but also like giving me that love,
Mhm.
and really seeing me. And I realized that I really struggled to receive love. Like it's quite comfortable for me to be able to take care of other people, to give love, to uh, give that support and to be there for other people. But I find it quite uncomfortable receiving that support and that love. And I think a lot of this energy is about support as well. You know, the different masculine and feminine supporting one another, but also, yeah, just like the support of the tribe and the support of family. And I almost felt like you were, and I feel like you have become like part of my family, my soul family. And, you know, I've shared with you before how I do really struggle sometimes to have that like deeper connection with people. Perhaps it could be related to my profile being a 2-5, you know, living in this double projection field. Um, but yeah, I just felt very, very much like taken care of and supported by you, but you weren't like telling me what to do. You weren't giving advice. You were just really like holding that space and giving that love, like from the heart.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I've forgotten it now.
You know, I hope that whenever people can, like, because honestly, like, people are just witnessing our friendship, which I think
Mm,
is such a blessing. But could also be kind of like, I don't want to use the word triggering, but can be a little bit confronting too, you know? Um, because it's like I hope that people who are able to like witness and experience this right in front, like what we have here, can hopefully find that in their own life. Right.
mm,
Because it's like everything you just said, like you give it right back to me when the time is needed and when I'm in that place. And I just feel like our friendship and like tribe, like, you know, our bond that we now have has kind of come together from an elevated state.
Mm.
So I feel like when we're connecting, like we're doing our best to really like be honest about not the reality, but like the raw and like the shadow and like the messy and the not necessarily like most heightened state, right? But also that too. Um,
Mm.
and how like to experience both and go through experiences of like shadow and accepting it and being with like a loving presence around it, and then also how we've gotten to higher frequencies of experience and relating. And that's one of the biggest things that I think that I recognized like in our friendship, but then also like in this particular gene key, because if you think about it, like it doesn't it also doesn't say anything about this being family that like you're born from, right? Ultimately that's the goal, because it talks about a lot about this gene key being related to like the children, like it's all about the children. But in order for it to be all about the children, again, we have to like come both individually and together from a more conscious place of having a more balanced masculine and feminine and all of that. And so sorry, I got a little distracted for a second. I have a puppy and she's like kind of wanting my attention, but she's fine. Okay, let's keep going. Um,
Well,
yeah.
I think it also talks a lot about that, how the family moving into this new paradigm, the age of Aquarius, and um, lining up with like human design and the 2027 shift that we're moving towards. The family extends further than just the biological family. And it makes me think about how we used to be in tribes, and how, it takes a community, it takes a village, that saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and just kind of this hope for the future that it will become less about those individual roles that people are playing, and more about like how can we work together,
Hmm.
not just family like with the mother and the father, but or those the masculine and the feminine, but also as a wider community, and it is part of the tribal circuitry. So
Yeah.
yeah, you also said something which was really interesting, and I think you were talking about how it can be it could be triggering for people to watch or witness our friendship, perhaps. And I'm not sure whether you meant in the sense of like maybe there's jealousy, or like, feeling like that's lacking in your life. I'm not sure if you meant it by that, or you meant in the sense of like it's triggering because it's confronting, because we talk
Yeah.
about
Well,
the shadow.
both. Yeah, I meant both
Yeah.
because like like I'm just thinking about the people who maybe don't have that in their life,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and not necessarily feel this like feeling of like, oh, I'm jealous of that, but maybe also just like a longing and a want,
Yeah.
of like, oh, I'd like that in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting, because I felt that like before our friendship, I felt like that was lacking in my life. And I've shared with you before, I feel like I manifested you, because I wrote down on my manifestation list at the start of 2022, before I met you, I was like, I want to manifest a new friend, like a deeper connection, a friend that like gets me, and that we can just like talk about anything and not feel judged. And I have beautiful friendships in my life, but I often feel like when I open up to people, there's often like this reluctance in me, because I feel like they're going to tell me what to do or give me advice. And
Hmm.
sometimes I just want to feel heard, and I just want to feel like seen, but not, as a manifester, one of the worst things you can do is tell someone what to do. Of course, it so often comes from love, and none of us are perfect. But yeah, I've just like appreciated that so much about our friendship. But something interestingly that also made me think of is when I was in a very unsupportive relationship in the past. So I was previously married before I met my now husband. I was in quite a unsupportive relationship, probably from both parts, right? It didn't feel loving, it didn't feel supportive, it didn't feel safe. And it felt very much like we were both kind of playing our roles that were like expected of us. And I would witness other relationships that seemed to be like so supportive and so loving. And I would get triggered because I would feel like I want that and I don't have that.
Mhm.
And when that marriage fell apart and I went through, pregnancy loss and a really difficult time, it was through that healing that I was then able to manifest my now relationship with my husband, Alex, who is extremely supportive. And I would say he, while we're both still learning and growing together, he definitely embodies this more like divine masculine energy and is very much, he also has a lot of tribal circuitry and a lot of his he's really about serving the family, and I know he's going to be an amazing father when we do have children. And so I felt that like longing and that lack of that support and of that loving union. And so I'm really grateful now to be able to like bring children into the world with that more um supportive environment and safe environment. And I can see how other people might look at that and also perhaps feel triggered like I did in the past.
Mhm.
But I guess it's also then up to each of us to like take responsibility of where we can show up more fully in this energy, because that's something I've also had to do is let go of. I have a lot of like masculine energy. I have, I'm a quad left. I've got all my arrows point to the left. And so I've recognized within myself that I often can be quite like aggressive and quite like masculine in that sense. And I had a lot of my upbringing and a lot of conditioning I've been working through is around productivity and output and working all the time. And so I'm kind of leaning into this more softer, gentler, nurturing energy. And yeah,
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
that.
Well, and
Yeah.
it relates so much to this gene key because so here we have the gift of honestly, it's left my mind.
Equality.
Equality. There you go. The gift of equality. You want to read me the other two? Because I
The shadow of weakness.
there, yes, okay.
The shadow of weakness, and then the Siddhi of tenderness.
Yeah. So within this energy, there's a lot of description of the family, the roles, the masculine, the feminine, and how we're actually going through a phase where women are kind of seen in this like overcompensation of their masculine, but ultimately it's to do the reverse, to bring more of the divine balanced masculine. And the only way to do that is to sort of like tip the roles and the energy reverse so that
Yeah.
they can then come back to like an equality and an equilibrium individually and then together collectively around and everything. And um something that I also experience in my life is like I have a lot of masculine energy as well, but through like my zodiac. So I have
Okay.
like a lot of like my placements and um like activation are around more masculine signs. So
Oh.
I've kind of I'm same thing, like in all different kinds of ways. I show up with this being a little bit more dominant, and
Mm.
I've had to soften and have had to step into being more into this feminine role of receiving and rest and creativity. And what I love what he says. I can't remember the first part of what he says. I just remember that he then writes, then the masculine is going to build the world. um
Mm.
I don't remember what he says. He says something about the feminine, but then the masculine is going to build it.
And the
uh
masculine is serving the feminine as
yes.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that too. And
Whereas it's kind of been the opposite historically,
right.
like the
And it
feminine.
doesn't mean like that means I get, a platter of fruit brought to me on my throne. Like, no. I mean, side note, I don't cook, but it's because I really don't like it. You know, that's, gosh, such a blessing. Um, so I do get my food kind of prepared and not brought to me. I get up and I go to the table. But you know, it's just interesting, and to me it's exciting, and it's so funny how we were in this 37th, and I had been listening to, right before reading it, I listened to a podcast. If you want, you guys can check it out. It's Almost 30, and it's with um I can't remember, I think her name is Mia the witch, something like that. And they just happen to be talking about all of this masculine, feminine kind of archetype, energy and all that stuff. And then I opened the Gene Key and it was like, this is exactly what I just listened to. Um, and all in turn to kind of come back more equal, like as a society and humanity and all of that. And so um the shadow being weakness, I just wanted to mention like that. I think that that's a lot of what it's funny because he said that it's like an illusion, but on everyone's end, like not,
Yeah.
yeah. Wait, say that part again.
It's perception.
Right.
Like the weakness is perception. And it made me think as well about, we've both talked about this softness, like softening into the more feminine energy, because we can tend to lean towards the more masculine. And I'd love for you actually to go through my astrology with me, because I think that would be interesting to have a look at. I don't know a lot about astrology, but I think that's also the perception that feminine energy is weak, because
Right.
like we also have this archetype of like the wild woman, and mothers will do anything to protect their children.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know, I just felt important to share that. But again, just this like misunderstanding that we have with these energies, with the masculine and the feminine, the archetypes. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just, you said that and I was imagining like a wolf,
Yeah.
and I recently got a dog, so which is actually, I don't know if I've shared this yet on the podcast, that I have a puppy now. Her name is Breeze, and she's a little bit over 4 months old. And it's the first, mothery kind of experience I've had. I don't have children. I am like the oldest out of all of my siblings, and I've always been very motherly to just about all of them, and including my friends. And um, but it's very interesting to witness and experience myself, like nurturing in this way and caring in this way, and kind of like being motherly over another living thing. Yeah, very interesting. I don't, just random thought that I wanted to share, but yeah, it's quite an experience.
Mm.
Yeah, it's challenging,
Mm.
but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm making through. Luckily, she doesn't like wake me up to go to the bathroom. We're not there, I hope. So I still sleep. Like, she's a solid sleeper, and I'm blessed, like good 8 hours, and I don't get bothered to have to make her, like, let her out. At first I was getting up because I was just waking up, like making sure she was all right. And I would take her out just out of courtesy, in case she needs to go to the bathroom. But she's good. So, I know people, babies, pets, sleep. Can't really do what you want when you want. That's the new
Well,
thing.
it's the responsibility, right? It's like taking care of, yeah, it's
Mhm.
giving. It's, yeah.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of like sums up all I got for this one.
Yeah, same here.
So
Same
fun.
here. I feel like I want to read it again. Like I didn't feel like I sat with this one for very long, but
Mhm.
I definitely resonated a lot with
Yeah.
it. And yeah, I'm excited to get onto the 38th, because we both have this one.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Huh.
Fighting.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yes, we do. And the only other thing I kind of wanted to touch on was that this one, is it this one or is it the gate 40 that is one of the three of the gates of aloneness?
The gate 40 is,
40.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get there when we get there, but I find it interesting that it's connected to this one because sometimes in having to be able to receive, you have to, well, to receive, but really what I meant to say is in order to give, sometimes you need to retreat. And in that retreating is like solitude and being alone, and something that you and I both experience because you can't, in my opinion, like I can't give to my tribe. I can't show up with my part if I don't take that time to completely refill and recharge. And it looks different for everyone, but I have two of the three gates of aloneness, and I'm
I have the
also
other.
am also
Yeah.
2-4. And so it's like, this is how it, human design sort of layers, and you got to look at all of the different parts. And it just helps me to recognize and honor more of like the fact that when I say that I need to do something and it's to do something for me, it's important that I come first. That's part of this new sort of identity I was telling you that I'm like birthing in, is like Rafaela comes first, and that's just it. Um, and then that way I can like give so much more freely and openly and abundantly to those that are in my life. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're not giving out of obligation. You're giving
right.
that true, that true, like unconditional
Yeah.
love. But it has to come from starting with yourself. And I think just to loop it back around to the quote that I shared at the very start, like, yes, it is a bit of a platitude to say you can't love someone else until you love yourself. But I actually genuinely think that there's a lot of truth in that. And I think it comes down to worthiness. Like, if you don't feel completely worthy
Mhm.
of love within yourself, then you're not able to fully give that to another. It's like a mirror, the way that we relate with ourselves is also the way we relate with the world and with others. And so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, now I'm extra excited to jump into 38, because we both have it defined, and I believe it comes out of the root, correct?
Yeah.
So we're going to the bottom, and we'll
Have we
see.
been through it yet?
I feel like we haven't.
Just the 19th.
Oh, the
Yeah, just the
19th. So we have, yeah. Okay. Well, here we are back again. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Bye.